So I'm a Nazi, apparently. I mean, there's a book of Hitler on your screen right now, so what else could it mean? I mean, I'm the owner, so surely if you read books about Hitler, then you're a Nazi. That's got to be correct, hasn't it? Wait, hold on a minute. Look, there's some other books appearing on your screen. Now, some of them will relieve me of my Nazi credentials. Admittedly, some of them will consign me as a communist instead. But hold on a minute. Maybe I'm a liberal or a conservative. No. Perhaps more of an economist enthusiast. Maybe a philosopher. Oh, no, actually, maybe a racist. No. Hold on, that can't be right because I own a book by a black man, Nelson Mandela. So, what the hell am I then? I mean, in this day and age of identity politics, surely I should be compartmentalised and then shoved into a neat category, a bit like Michael Gove. I mean, the man's obviously a raving lunatic, a holocaust denier and a racist madman. Journalist Owen Jones certainly thinks so. Why does Michael Gove and his wife own a copy of a book by David Irvine, one of the most notorious Holocaust deniers on earth, he tweeted recently? Well, why not, Mr. Jones? Okay, let's get into this, shall we? What strikes me about Jones's denunciation is the guilt by association hypothesis. If Gove owns a book by David Irvine, then he must be a Holocaust denier. But even more creepy than that is this sort of passive accusation about Gove's wife. She's married to Gove and therefore she must also be a Holocaust denier, sort of guilty by association. So what should we do? I mean, should we burn the books? I mean, that's what the Nazis would do. I know that's a little extreme maybe, so perhaps let's just ban them like the communists did under Stalin in the Soviet Union. Oh, hold on a minute. That would be a problem for me, wouldn't it? Because it means that some of these splendid books that I've purchased and lovingly read and cared for and kept over the years will become extinct and obsolete. Anyway, that's me rambling again. Let's get back to Owen Jones. The article website has an interesting interpretation on the Gove issue. Now, quoting Stephen Pollard, the editor of the Jewish Chronicle, declared, having steeped himself in anti-Semitic literature during his successful campaign against Labour anti-Semites, he must, according to the logic of Owen Jones, have a soft spot for it. Now, Pollard admitted to owning 2 books by Irvine and 1 by Hitler himself, plus, and this is where it gets really bad, the speeches of Jeremy Corbyn and John McDonnell. He even had a word of praise for the excellent Chavs by Owen Jones himself. Now, that's the characteristic of this, isn't it? That reading broadens the mind, it educates, it improves cognition and imagination. Let's take China, for instance. In 2007, China convened the first party-approved science fiction and fantasy convention in Chinese history. Neil Gaiman, the famous science fiction author, asked the top official why they have this interest in science fiction now. The official told him that the Chinese were brilliant at making things if other people bought them the plans, but they did not innovate and they did not invent. They did not imagine. The Chinese sent a delegation to the US visiting Apple, Microsoft and Google and asked those who were inventing the future about themselves. They discovered that all of them had read science fiction when they were boys or girls. The hard left like Owen Jones are hypocrites. They yell and screech Nazi, fascist, racist, etc. at people such as Michael Gove or probably even me as well. They harbour hatred and animosity for us for apparently embracing Nazi ideas. Yet if it was left to them, they would instigate the censorship of books. They would be prepared to refuse authors the opportunity to publish their work, whether it be fiction or non-fiction. Websites, maybe even my website, would be removed for electronically conveying censorious material, and blasphemous opinion would clearly be suppressed across the entire internet. Cultural Marxism has already seeped into university education and a culture of censorship has emerged. According to Spiked online, Free Speech University rankings in 2018 found that 50% of universities and students' unions placed explicit restrictions on speech, while a further 40% chilled speech through excessive regulation. Now let us imagine what Owen Jones would do to the fragile desire to speak one's own mind. He would be policing thought and replicating Stalinist ideas of censorship. You can't learn anything from a lying book which rewrites history to suit the Nazis, Jones said. While he's correct on the Irvine book, this hypocritical simpleton seeks to censor the literature that doesn't fit in with his own political dogma, and that's an incredibly dangerous principle to hold. The entire fragile concept of free speech relies on an individual or group to articulate their position without the fear of censorship, legal sanction, retribution or violence. Owen Jones appears to support the persecution of the very principle that underpins our Western societies. Now, George Orwell will be turning in his grave, for it was he who said, if liberty means anything at all, it means the right to tell people what they do not want to hear. In my judgment, we live in dangerous times where freedom of speech is so delicate. We need to oppose Stalinist, cultural Marxist dimwits like Owen Jones. For me, open debate and dialogue are essential to life. If we allow Marxists to have their way, we certainly won't be entitled to produce, watch and comment on videos like this one. Now, thanks very much for watching, guys, and remember, choose love.